All right, so I'm not going to lie. This one actually made me tear up unexpectedly. Welcome to another Saturday Conundrum episode. If this is your first time here, this is something we do every Saturday that's a bit of a departure from the way we normally do our shows. We're normally, I'm Brian with the Daily AI Show, I'm one of the co-hosts and co-founders. You can find us Monday through Friday right here on YouTube or Spotify doing our live show at 10 a.m. Eastern. On Saturdays, we do these conundrum episodes, and the idea is just to bring up a conundrum, something that doesn't have an easy right or wrong answer. It's all about AI, and it's just a fun conversation. The twist, though, is that this conversation, other than you hearing me do this intro, which is live, the whole conversation is done by AI. It's actually created through a 3-step process between ChatGPT, using Perplexity Deep Research, and then finally Google Notebook LM, and a lot of human involvement, me, in that process. So I want to read to you the intro to this because it's a little different than what we've done in past Saturdays. In this particular conundrum, we're talking about a sort of hypothetical, maybe not too distant AI future, something that we can definitely believe would happen, but by no means is necessarily going to happen. So it's a little different. You have to suspend belief here a little bit, but that's what's going to make this one fun. All right, let me tell you about it, and then we'll get into the conversation. This is the AI Soulmate Conundrum. In a future not far off, AI has quietly collected the most intimate data from billions of people. It has observed how your body responds to conflict, how your voice changes when you're hurt, which words you return to when you're hopeful or afraid. It has done the same for everyone else. With enough data, it claims love is no longer a mystery. It's a pattern waiting to be matched. One day, the AI offers you a name, a face, a person. The system predicts that this matches your highest probability for a long, fulfilling relationship. Couples who accept these matches experience fewer divorces, less conflict, and greater overall well-being. The AI is not always right, but it's more right than any other method humans have ever used to find love. But here's the twist. Your match may come from a different country, speak a language you don't know, or hold beliefs that conflict with your own. They may not match the gender or personality type you thought you were drawn to. Your friends may not understand. Your family may not approve. You might not either at first, and yet the data says that this is the person who will love you best and whom you will most likely grow to love in return. If you accept the match, you're trusting that the deepest truth about who you are can be known by a system that sees what you cannot. But if you reject it, you do so knowing you may never experience love that comes this close to certainty. Here's the conundrum. If AI offers you the person most likely to love and understand you for the rest of your life, but the match challenges your sense of identity, your beliefs, or your community, do you follow it anyway and risk everything familiar in exchange for a deep connection? Or do you walk away, holding on to the version of love you've always believed in, even if it means never finding it? And what I find is really interesting about this conundrum is it's not really just a choice between mystery or certainty. It's about identity, values, faith, family, and whether you're willing to accept love in a form you didn't expect. And there's no clear answer here. Only a choice that costs something either way. All right, so I'll tell you before we jump into it, the sentence that got me and made me tear up was where it says, and yet the data says this is the person who will love you best. And frankly, I know it's cheesy, but it made me think of my wife and my daughter, and it just caught me off guard. So I hope you really enjoy this conversation. A little bit longer of an intro from me, but I really, really like this one. I tell you guys this every Saturday. This is one of my favorite things to do because I just love the idea of two AI voices, using AI in the process, debating AI in our society, how it affects us as humans. It's just fun. So enjoy the conversation. I hope you get something out of it.
All right, welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're going to be looking into something kind of interesting, a little bit different, something that we're calling, for the sake of this deep dive at least, the AI Soulmate Conundrum.
Okay.
Have you heard of this?
I've heard murmurs.
Yeah. It's basically this idea that's been floating around that, in the future, AI could potentially analyze all of the just mountains of data that we generate every single day.
Yeah.
Like literally everything from, the stuff we're looking at on our phones late at night
Right.
to maybe like our, physiological responses, like when we get stressed out and everything in between, and use all of that to try to predict like who our ideal romantic partner would be.
And to be clear, for you, the listener,
Yeah.
this isn't some, far-flung fantasy. This isn't science fiction. This is based on, AI trends that are happening right now and data collection practices that are in place right now.
Mm-hmm.
This is very much connected to our present-day reality.
Totally,
So-
yeah. And that's actually what we're going to be looking at in this deep dive. We're going to be kind of looking at this potential future through the lens of what's going on right now with research and technology.
Yeah, okay.
So here's the central question, and this is the question that we want you, the listener, to kind of keep in mind as we go through this. Imagine for a second that an AI system like this exists,
Right.
and it looks at all your data, analyzes it, comes back to you and says, hey, I found your perfect match. Here they are. The data's undeniable. This person is statistically your ideal partner. But here's the catch. This person, they just totally clash with your expectations. They don't align with, your sense of self, your identity, or even like the community that you belong to.
Oh, wow.
So the question is, do you take that leap? Do you trust the algorithm and go for it? Or do you stick with your gut?
Your intuition.
Yeah, your intuition, your desires, all of that stuff.
Yeah, it's a real crossroads.
Yeah. And there's really no right answer.
That's right.
Yeah.
And today we're going to explore those two sides.
Yeah.
The reasons why you might trust the algorithm, the reasons why you might prioritize your own human agency.
Absolutely. Okay, so let's start with the first possibility here. What if, and this is kind of a mind-bending thought, what if we actually do decide to put our faith in this algorithm?
Yeah.
One of the most compelling arguments for doing that is that AI might be able to see, understand compatibility in a way that we, with our little human brains, just can't.
Absolutely. I mean, think about it. We as humans, we're limited by our own experiences, our own perceptions.
Totally.
We're influenced by, things that have happened to us in the past, oftentimes subconsciously repeating those patterns. Our social circles are relatively small. We don't have access to a massive amount of data about potential partners. But AI, on the other hand, can look at billions, literally billions of data points across a vast population. Everything from, as you were saying, from behaviors, preferences, to even those subtle physiological cues that we might not even be aware of.
And to put this into perspective, research into, existing matchmaking technologies has shown that, quote, AI matchmaking considers a wide range of compatibility factors, resulting in matches that have a higher likelihood of shared values, interests, and long-term compatibility.
Right.
It's essentially like having this incredibly insightful matchmaker, but this matchmaker is working with a data set that is just so beyond anything that we could ever comprehend as individuals.
Exactly. And this isn't just some, hypothetical thing. This is actually playing out. I mean, you look at the research, you look at the data, and studies are actually showing that these AI-driven platforms are actually achieving what they claim to be achieving. They're having, quote, improved success rates in forming lasting relationships compared to, traditional methods. And let's be honest here. How many people do you know who have invested so much time and energy and emotional energy into relationships that ultimately don't work out? AI has the potential to offer a more streamlined and more importantly, a more evidence-backed path to finding a compatible partner.
Yeah, and this is where it gets really interesting, I think, for me at least. It's this idea that that AI, in this matchmaking capacity, could actually free us from some of the baggage that we bring to the table when we think about our ideal partner.
Yeah.
Like all of these limiting ideas that we have that are often shaped by, cultural narratives or personal biases that we might not even be aware of.
Exactly. We're so often influenced by what we see in the media,
Totally.
what our families expect of us, and like you said, the limited pool of people that we interact with in our daily lives. Yeah. An AI system looking purely at, deep compatibility metrics might suggest someone who completely breaks the mold of what we thought we were looking for. And that, that unexpectedness could lead to a level of fulfillment that we might never have found otherwise.
I'm reminded of something that we came across. I think it was an online comment that we found while we were researching this. Someone wrote, "Love is about connection, and if an AI could truly understand me, that could be amazing. Maybe it'd even be better at emotional support than some humans."
Interesting.
It's a fascinating thought, isn't it? This idea that an AI, by having this complete, comprehensive understanding of our needs and our patterns, could actually help us to form a deeper, more meaningful connection, even if the person that it identifies doesn't initially fit our picture of, quote unquote, the one.
Right, and that actually brings us to the final point here in favor of trusting the algorithm,
Yeah.
which is the potential for personal growth.
Oh.
If you embrace this match that challenges your expectations, that could expose you to new perspectives, new values, new experiences, I mean, even just understanding the AI's reasoning, why it chose this person for you, could lead to some serious self-discovery.
Yeah.
It's all about being open to the possibility that the algorithm might see something in you, a potential for connection and growth that you yourself haven't even recognized.
I love that. That's such a powerful idea. Okay, so we've made a pretty good case, I think, for letting the algorithm steer the ship here, but let's look at the flip side.
Yeah, the other side.
Yeah. What are some of the reasons why we might actually want to hold on to our own human intuition and agency when it comes to, this whole love and relationship thing?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest arguments against handing over this power to an algorithm is, the importance of those imperfections and the challenges that actually come with being in a relationship.
Okay.
Those struggles, those moments where you disagree, even, the irrational quirks that we all have, both in ourselves and in our partners, those are often the things that help us grow and forge deeper bonds with each other.
Right.
I was reading a quote from someone reflecting on their marriage, and they said something really interesting. They talked about the value of navigating those imperfect moments together, learning and growing from them.
Wow.
And the concern with an AI-generated partnership, one that's based on, minimizing those points of friction, is that it might also limit those opportunities for shared vulnerability and that mutual growth.
Yeah, it's that idea of going through the messiness together, embracing the imperfections and actively working to support each other through the hard times.
Yeah.
That feels, in a lot of ways very human and something that an algorithm that's focused purely on, metrics and compatibility might just completely miss.
Absolutely. And then you also have to think about the data.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, the sheer amount of data that an AI would need to make these kinds of predictions, these incredibly intimate predictions. We're talking about our innermost thoughts, our emotional responses, our entire digital footprint. I mean, for you, the listener, that raises some serious questions about, who has access to that information, who's controlling it, and how secure is it, really?
It's funny you mentioned that because one of the things that we kept seeing pop up in the research was this concern about the potential for misuse.
Oh, absolutely.
People not fully understanding how their data is being used, and this idea that, it could be used for purposes beyond, just finding a match. And that's a pretty big deal when we're talking about something as sensitive and vulnerable as, our love lives.
For sure. And then on top of that, we need to remember that algorithms, as sophisticated as they might seem, they're still ultimately created and trained by humans.
Right.
Which means they're susceptible to the same biases that exist in the data that they're trained on.
It's that old saying, garbage in, garbage out.
Yeah, that's exactly.
And, some experts have pointed out that, quote, AI algorithms are only as good as the data they are trained on. If the data collected is biased or incomplete, it may result in biased matching recommendations. So it's entirely possible that, even with the best of intentions, an AI could perpetuate, existing societal biases in its recommendations.
And then there's the even bigger question of, can an algorithm truly capture what it means to connect with another human being? I mean, yes, it can analyze, those surface level factors, those compatibility metrics, but can it really understand that spark, that chemistry? Can it grasp those unspoken understandings that develop between two people?
Yeah.
Some research that we looked at pointed out that, quote, while AI algorithms can analyze compatibility factors, they may not fully capture the nuanced aspects of human connection and chemistry.
I love that idea that there's this almost like indescribable element to real connection. It's like trying to, define a work of art just by looking at its chemical composition. You might get some interesting information,
Sure.
but you're going to miss the essence of what makes it so powerful.
And you also run the risk of, as a society, becoming overly reliant on technology for something that's so fundamental to the human experience.
Oh, right.
I mean, if we start letting algorithms make these really personal decisions for us, what happens to our own ability to, read people, to assess compatibility, to make choices based on our own intuition.
Totally.
Some people are worried that, this could lead to, quote, decreasing reliance on human intuition and personal judgment when it comes to forming relationships. And, that's a valid concern.
It is. And it makes you wonder if we keep going down this road, are we at risk of losing, some of our capacity to make those connections on our own?
Absolutely. And then, and this might sound a little bit out there, but there are even researchers who are concerned about, the potential for digital addiction.
Oh, wow.
If AI companionship becomes increasingly sophisticated, people might actually start forming deep emotional attachments to these, artificial systems.
Right.
And that, that can have a real impact on how we understand human connection if we're increasingly turning to AI for our emotional needs.
So at the end of the day, this whole AI soulmate conundrum, it really forces us to ask ourselves some really fundamental questions about what we value. What is it that we're actually looking for in a partner?
Yeah.
Is it pure compatibility? This idea of compatibility that's defined by data? Or are there other things that are more important? Like shared values or the conscious choice to build a life with someone.
Yeah.
Where do those things fit in? And it even, it makes us look at how different cultures approach partnership. Think about arranged marriages, for example.
Right.
Compatibility in that context might be based on, family ties, social standing, things like that, rather than this individual, romantic spark.
Right.
And in a way, this AI system, it's kind of like a modern, data-driven take on that same concept. It really makes you question what we as a society prioritize when we're looking for a life partner.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've gone deep here, and I think it's pretty clear that there's no easy answer.
Yeah.
It's complicated.
No easy answer.
If you choose to trust the algorithm, you have this potential for finding a partner who's incredibly compatible with you. You might even, like we said, unlock some amazing personal growth through that experience.
Yeah.
But if you choose to stick with, human agency, you're valuing that messy, unpredictable, ultimately human way that we've always found love.
Yeah, it has all its challenges, but there's also the freedom.
Exactly.
It's the freedom to choose and that, that almost magical, unexplainable feeling of human connection.
It's a powerful thing. And so as we, wrap up this deep dive, it really all comes down to this.
Yeah.
What do you believe is most essential? What are those non-negotiables for you when it comes to love and connection? What are those things that you don't think an algorithm could ever truly understand or replicate?
Wow.
It's a question that I think we all need to be asking ourselves as we move forward in this, this world where technology is becoming more and more intertwined with our personal lives.
So, listener, we leave you with that question. What is it that you value most?
Yeah.
And how will you navigate this, this new landscape of love and connection?
In the age of AI.
In the age of AI, it's exciting. It's a little bit scary.
Yeah.
But it's definitely something worth thinking about.
Definitely.
All right, we'll be back next time with another deep dive.
Until then.